The crisp mountain breeze carried the scent of pine and wildflowers through the open window. Mira inhaled deeply, savoring the tranquility of their secluded cabin retreat. A steaming mug of tea in hand, she settled onto the plush sofa, relishing the rare chance to unwind with her husband, Leon. As the morning sunlight danced across the rustic wooden floors, Mira's gaze fell upon Leon's face. His chiseled features were softened by a contented smile as he typed away on his laptop, likely tending to some business matter. A pang of melancholy tugged at her heart. Even on their 5th wedding anniversary, work seemed to take precedence. Mira pushed the thought aside, determined to make the most of their time together. She reached for her tablet, intending to catch up on her favorite blog when a new email notification flashed across the screen. Frowning slightly, she opened the message, her brow furrowing as she scanned the unfamiliar sender's cryptic words. "Your husband is hiding something dangerous, something that could destroy your family. You deserve to know the truth." A chill ran down her spine as she reread the ominous message. Mira's grip tightened around the tablet, her knuckles turning white. She glanced up at Leon, her heart racing. He seemed oblivious, his fingers still tapping away at the keyboard. "Everything okay, babe?" he asked without looking up. Mira swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just some spam, nothing to worry about." Yet, as she studied her husband's relaxed demeanor, doubt crept into her mind like an insidious poison. What truth could he be hiding? Mira's thoughts spiraled, replaying every odd behavior, every half-truth that had slipped through the cracks of their seemingly perfect marriage. She needed answers, and she knew just the person to help her find them. Her tech-savvy cousin, Jonas. With trembling fingers, Mira composed a discreet message, attaching the anonymous email and pleading for his assistance in unraveling the mystery that now threatened to unravel her life. The days following the ominous email brought a storm of unease that Mira couldn't shake. Leon's once charming quirks now seemed laced with deception. The way he'd abruptly end phone calls, the furtive glances when she entered a room unexpectedly. A gnawing doubt had taken root, poisoning her perception of the man she had vowed to love and trust. "You're being paranoid," Leon chided one evening as they sat across from each other at the dinner table, the tension thick as fog. "Why would I ever want to hurt you or our family?" His words rang hollow, and Mira found herself scrutinizing every syllable, searching for cracks in his facade. "I don't know, Leon. That's what scares me," he scoffed, pushing his half-eaten plate away. "This is ridiculous. I'm going for a walk to clear my head." As the front door slammed behind him, Mira's phone buzzed with a message from Jonas. "I traced the email to an internet cafe downtown. No luck identifying the sender, but get this, it originated from the same network as Leon's ex-business partner, Derek Wright." Mira's blood ran cold as she recalled the name. A man Leon had sworn was out of his life for good after a bitter falling out years ago. Trembling fingers tapped out a reply. "What could Derek possibly have against me?" The response came swiftly. "Maybe nothing, but clearly he knows something about Leon that you don't." Mira slumped back in her chair, her mind reeling. Had Leon been lying about cutting ties with Derek? And if so, what else had he lied about? The man she thought she knew was rapidly becoming a stranger, and the foundation of their marriage was crumbling beneath her feet. When Leon returned hours later, Mira feigned sleep, her back turned towards him as he slipped into bed. She lay awake, haunted by the echo of his footsteps, the scent of his cologne now laced with the bitter tang of betrayal. In the days that followed, Mira found herself scrutinizing every aspect of Leon's behavior, desperate for any shred of evidence that might shed light on the truth. The way he lingered a little too long on certain phone calls, the slight furrow of his brow when she mentioned Derek's name, each subtle gesture fueled her growing suspicion. Yet, whenever she mustered the courage to confront him, Leon would deflect with such effortless charm that Mira found herself doubting her own instincts. "You're letting some anonymous troll get to you," he'd say, pulling her close and pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Don't let them tear us apart, baby." But the seeds of doubt had taken root, and no amount of sweet nothings could uproot them now. Mira knew she had to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. And so, with a heavy heart and trembling hands, she reached out to an old family friend, a seasoned lawyer named Sylvia Roth, who had guided her through many legal battles in the past. This time, however, the stakes were higher than ever before. As Mira poured out her suspicions to Sylvia over a hushed phone call, she couldn't help but wonder if the truth would ultimately set her free or shatter her world beyond repair. With Sylvia's guidance, Mira embarked on a covert investigation into Leon's past dealings with Derek Wright. Every move had to be calculated lest she tip off Leon and jeopardize her chances of uncovering the truth. "We need concrete evidence," Sylvia had warned during their hushed meeting at a discreet cafe. "Anything less, and he'll just try to gaslight you again." Mira nodded, her jaw set with determination. She would not be made a fool. Not this time. The first step was to gather as much information as possible about Derek Wright and his history with Leon. Sylvia's team of investigators uncovered a paper trail of financial records, email exchanges, and legal documents that painted a disturbing picture. Leon and Derek had been business partners in a tech startup that had gone belly up amid allegations of fraud and misappropriation of funds. The records showed that Derek had taken the brunt of the legal fallout, while Leon had seemingly slithered away unscathed. "But that doesn't make any sense," Mira muttered, poring over the documents with Jonas by her side. "Why would Derek implicate Leon now, after all these years?" Jonas shrugged, his brow furrowed. "Maybe he's finally grown a conscience, or maybe he's got some kind of leverage over Leon that we don't know about." The thought sent a chill down Mira's spine. What could Derek possibly have on her husband that would drive him to such desperate measures? As the investigation progressed, the pieces began to fall into place like a sinister puzzle. Mira discovered that Leon had been siphoning funds from her inheritance, a substantial nest egg left by her late father, and funneling it into a secret offshore account linked to Derek Wright. The revelation hit her like a ton of bricks, leaving her reeling with a cocktail of emotions. Anger, disbelief, and a crushing sense of betrayal. How could the man she had loved and trusted for so many years be capable of such deceit? Confronting Leon was out of the question. Mira knew he would only deny everything and spin a web of lies to gaslight her once more. No, she needed ironclad proof, the kind that would leave no room for doubt or manipulation. With Sylvia's guidance, Mira hatched a plan to lure Leon into a trap of his own making. She would use his greed against him, dangling the promise of a lucrative business opportunity that would require him to share sensitive financial records. The night before the sting operation, Mira lay awake, her mind racing with a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, fear, determination, they all swirled together in a toxic cocktail that threatened to consume her. But as the first rays of dawn filtered through the bedroom window, Mira felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She was done being the victim. It was time to take control of her life, no matter the cost. With steely resolve, she slipped out of bed and began to prepare for the confrontation that would change everything. The trap was set, and all Mira could do now was wait. She paced the living room, her heart pounding like a jackhammer in her chest. Every creak, every rustle of leaves outside made her jump, nerves frayed to the breaking point. Finally, the telltale crunch of tires on gravel signaled Leon's arrival. Mira drew a steadying breath and schooled her features into a mask of calm indifference. "Hey, babe," Leon greeted as he breezed through the door, all easy smiles and charm. "You ready to discuss this business opportunity?" Mira nodded, gesturing for him to take a seat at the kitchen table. "Of course, but first, I need you to be completely transparent with me." Leon's brow furrowed, but he nodded. "You know you can trust me, Mira." The words dripped with such casual deceit that Mira had to resist the urge to spit in his face. Instead, she slid a thick manila envelope across the table. "What's this?" Leon asked, his fingers already tearing at the seal. "Proof of your lies," Mira replied, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging within. "Proof that you've been stealing from me and plotting with Derek Wright behind my back." As Leon rifled through the damning documents, bank statements, email trails, legal contracts, the color drained from his face. For a moment, he was speechless, his mouth hanging open like a gasping fish. "How?" he finally managed, his voice little more than a croak. Mira leveled him with a steely gaze. "I've known about your betrayal for weeks now. This was just the final nail in the coffin." Leon's eyes narrowed, and his handsome features twisted into an ugly sneer. "You conniving bitch, you think you've won, but you're nothing without me." "That's where you're wrong," Mira replied, her voice laced with icy contempt. "I'm stronger than you'll ever be, and now the whole world is going to see you for the sniveling worm you truly are." With a flick of her wrist, she activated the hidden cameras strategically placed around the room. Leon's eyes widened in horror as the realization sank in. His every vile word, his every damning admission had been captured on video. "No," he whispered, his face ashen. Mira leaned back in her chair, a savage satisfaction coursing through her veins. "Yes, Leon, you're finished." Over the next few days, Mira's carefully orchestrated revenge unfolded with brutal efficiency. The incriminating videos went viral, spreading like wildfire through Leon's professional circles and social networks. Sponsors and business partners dropped him like a hot potato, their once glowing endorsements turning to scathing condemnations. Legal proceedings were swiftly initiated, and Leon found himself facing a litany of charges: fraud, embezzlement, and more. Through it all, Mira remained stoic, her eyes hardened like flint as she watched her husband's world crumble around him. This was the price he had to pay for his treachery, and she would not flinch in exacting her pound of flesh. With Leon's duplicity laid bare, Mira wasted no time in setting her retribution plans into motion. She met with Sylvia and Jonas, her trusted allies, to strategize their next moves. "We need to hit him where it hurts most," Mira stated, her voice laced with steely determination. "His reputation, his finances, everything he's built through lies and deceit." Sylvia nodded, her sharp gaze missing nothing. "I've already filed for divorce proceedings and a freeze on all joint assets. He won't be able to touch a dime until the courts sort this mess out." A grim smile tugged at Mira's lips. "Good. The last thing I want is for him to try and squirrel away any ill-gotten gains." Jonas leaned forward, his brow furrowed in thought. "What about his business dealings? If we can expose his shady practices to his partners and investors, it'll tank his credibility for good." Mira's eyes gleamed with a predatory light. "Exactly what I was thinking. Sylvia, can you arrange a press conference? I want to make sure every sordid detail is out in the open." The seasoned lawyer gave a curt nod. "Consider it done. I'll have my team compile a comprehensive dossier on Leon's misdeeds. We'll bury him in evidence." As the plan solidified, Mira felt a sense of grim satisfaction settle over her. For too long, she had been Leon's victim, powerless against his web of lies. But not anymore. This time, she held all the cards, and she intended to play them mercilessly. In the days leading up to the press conference, Mira could feel the tension mounting like a gathering storm. Leon's frantic calls and messages went unanswered, his pleas for mercy falling on deaf ears. "Mira, please," he begged during one particularly desperate voicemail. "I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this. Think of our life together, our future." Mira deleted the message with a savage swipe, her jaw clenched in disgust. He had shown her no mercy when he plotted to steal her inheritance, to shatter the life they had built on a foundation of lies. Why should she extend him any kindness now? When the day of the press conference arrived, Mira strode into the packed room with her head held high, flanked by Sylvia and a team of unflinching lawyers. The air was thick with anticipation, every journalist and camera lens trained on her like a laser sight. Mira approached the podium, her gaze sweeping over the sea of expectant faces. "For years, my husband, Leon Aldrich, has been living a double life," she began, her voice ringing out with clarity. "A life built on fraud, deceit, and the exploitation of those closest to him." A hushed murmur rippled through the crowd as Mira launched into a meticulous recounting of Leon's misdeeds, each damning revelation punctuated by ironclad evidence. Bank statements, emails, legal documents, all laid bare for the world to see. As the sordid details unfolded, Mira could feel the weight of Leon's reputation crumbling beneath the onslaught of truth. This was more than just revenge, it was justice, cold and uncompromising. By the time the conference drew to a close, the damage had been done. Leon's business partners had already begun distancing themselves, his investors backing away in droves. In a single, brutal stroke, Mira had dismantled the empire he had built on a foundation of lies. And she wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. With Leon's reputation in tatters, the stage was set for the final, devastating blow. Mira had carefully planned every excruciating detail, determined to expose her husband's true character to the world. It was the night of the prestigious Entrepreneurs Gala, an event Leon had been anticipating for months. In his delusional mind, he still clung to the hope that his business empire could be salvaged, that the scandal would blow over like a passing storm. Little did he know, Mira had other plans. As the who's who of the city's business elite mingled in the opulent ballroom, exchanging air kisses and hollow pleasantries, Mira made her entrance. Heads turned, whispers rippled through the crowd as she glided across the marbled floor, resplendent in a sleek crimson gown that hugged her every curve. Leon spotted her from across the room, his face contorting into a mixture of horror and fury. He tried to make a beeline for the exit, but Mira's associates were already in position, blocking his escape. "Going somewhere, dear husband," Mira purred as she approached, her crimson lips curved into a predatory smile. Leon's eyes darted around the room, searching for an ally, a friendly face, but finding none. "What are you playing at, Mira?" he hissed through clenched teeth. "Just evening the playing field," she replied coolly. "You've had your fun, living the high life on the backs of those you've betrayed. Now it's time for the world to see the real Leon Aldrich." With a subtle nod, Mira signaled her associates, and the room fell into an eerie hush as the massive screens flickered to life. The incriminating videos began to play, each one more damning than the last. Leon's snarling admissions of fraud, his sneering contempt for those he had deceived. Gasps and murmurs of shock rippled through the crowd as the sordid truth unfolded before their eyes. Mira drank in the sight of Leon's pallid face, his hands trembling as the foundations of his carefully constructed crumbled around him. "You won't get away with this," he sputtered, his voice thick with impotent rage. "I'll make sure you pay for this humiliation." Mira merely laughed, a rich, throaty sound that cut through the stunned silence like a blade. "I'm counting on it," she taunted. "The more you struggle, the deeper you'll sink into the pit you've dug for yourself." As the final video reached its damning conclusion, the room erupted into a cacophony of outrage and disbelief. Business associates who had once fawned over Leon now turned their backs, their faces twisted in disgust. Investors beat a hasty retreat, their phones already buzzing with damage control instructions from their legal teams. In the span of a single night, Leon Aldrich had gone from a celebrated entrepreneur to a pariah, his empire reduced to ashes by the weight of his own lies. And through it all, Mira stood tall, her gaze unwavering as she watched the man who had once sworn to love and cherish her unravel before her very eyes. This was the price he had paid for his betrayal. And she would savor every agonizing moment of his downfall. As the crowd dispersed, hurling insults and accusations in Leon's direction, Mira approached him one final time. He was slumped in a chair, his head cradled in his hands, a broken man. "It's over, Leon," she said, her voice laced with a mixture of pity and triumph. "You've lost everything, your business, your reputation, your freedom, all because you couldn't resist the allure of greed and deceit." Leon raised his head, his eyes hollow and haunted. "Why, Mira?" he croaked, his voice a mere shadow of its former charm. "Why go to such lengths to destroy me?" Mira's gaze hardened like flint. "Because you underestimated me," she replied, her words cutting like daggers. "You thought you could lie, cheat, and steal without consequence. Well, now you know the truth. I am not a woman to be trifled with." With those final words, she turned on her heel and strode away, leaving Leon to wallow in the ashes of his ruined empire. The battle had been won, and Mira had emerged victorious, a force to be reckoned with, tempered by the fires of betrayal. In the aftermath of the Entrepreneurs Gala, the fallout from Mira's devastating exposé rippled through every aspect of Leon's life like a tsunami. His once thriving business crumbled under the weight of scandal, partners and investors fleeing in droves. But Leon wasn't content to slink away in disgrace. In his desperation, he lashed out, hurling threats and accusations at Mira in a futile attempt to regain some semblance of control. "You think you've won?" he snarled during one particularly heated exchange. "I'll make sure you lose everything. Your reputation, your livelihood, everything." Mira met his vitriol with an unflappable calm, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Save your breath, Leon. Your threats are as empty as your promises." Enraged by her dismissive tone, Leon lunged forward, his hand raised as if to strike her. But before his fist could connect, Sylvia's team of burly associates intervened, restraining him with practiced efficiency. "That's enough," Sylvia declared, her voice laced with icy disdain. "One more outburst like that, and you'll be facing assault charges on top of everything else." Leon struggled against the iron grip of the associates, his face contorted in a mask of rage. "You can't do this to me," he bellowed. "I'll have your licenses revoked, every one of you." Sylvia merely shook her head, her lips curling into a mirthless smile. "I'd like to see you try, Mr. Aldrich. Your threats hold no weight anymore, not with the mountain of evidence we've amassed against you." With a subtle nod, she dismissed the associates, who released Leon with a none-too-gentle shove. He stumbled, his chest heaving with impotent fury, as Sylvia calmly gathered the stack of documents that detailed the full scope of his misdeeds. "Face it, Leon," Mira said, her voice tinged with a mixture of pity and contempt. "You've lost. The life you knew, the empire you built on lies and deceit, it's all gone, crumbled to dust at your feet." Leon's shoulders slumped, the fight draining from his body as the weight of his actions finally seemed to sink in. "How could you do this to me, Mira?" he whispered, his voice thick with anguish. "After everything we've been through, everything we meant to each other?" Mira's gaze hardened, her eyes glinting like shards of emerald. "You did this to yourself, Leon. The moment you decided to betray my trust, to steal from me and conspire against me, that's when you sealed your own fate." She stepped closer, her voice lowering to a dangerous murmur. "I loved you, Leon. With every fiber of my being I loved you, but you threw that love away like it was worthless, all for the sake of greed and ego." Tears welled in Leon's eyes, his once handsome features twisted by the anguish of a man confronting the ruins of his life. "Please, Mira," he choked out, reaching for her hand. "We can start over. Leave all this behind us. I'll make it up to you, I swear." But Mira recoiled from his touch, her expression hardening like steel. "It's too late for promises, Leon. You had your chance, and you squandered it. Now it's time for you to face the consequences of your actions." As if on cue, the door swung open, and a pair of stern-faced police officers stepped into the room. Leon's eyes widened in horror as they approached, their movements purposeful and inexorable. "Leon Aldrich, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit grand larceny," one of the officers intoned, her voice ringing with authority. "You have the right to remain silent." As the officers recited his rights and secured the handcuffs around his wrists, Leon's gaze met Mira's one final time. In that moment, she saw the bitter truth reflected in his eyes. He had brought this ruin upon himself through his own greed and arrogance. And as the officers led him away, his head bowed in defeat, Mira felt an unexpected pang of sadness. This man, who had once been her world, her everything, was now reduced to a cautionary tale, a warning of the consequences of unchecked ambition and moral bankruptcy. But she quickly pushed the melancholy aside, squaring her shoulders with renewed determination. This was the path she had chosen, the price she had paid to reclaim her life and her dignity. And as she watched Leon's retreating form, she knew without a shadow of a doubt that it had been worth every agonizing step. The weeks following Leon's arrest were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and media scrutiny. As the sordid details of his crimes came to light, the public's outrage reached a fever pitch, with countless victims stepping forward to share their stories of being deceived and swindled by the man they had once trusted. Through it all, Mira remained steadfast, her resolve unwavering, as she navigated the choppy waters of divorce proceedings and asset recovery. With Sylvia's guidance, she methodically dismantled Leon's web of deceit, untangling the intricate financial knots he had so carefully woven. "You're handling this with remarkable poise," Sylvia remarked one day as they pored over yet another stack of incriminating documents. "Most women in your position would have crumbled under the pressure." Mira's lips curved into a wry smile. "I won't lie, Sylvia. There were moments when I thought the weight of it all might crush me. But then I'd remember why I'm fighting, and that steel in my spine would return." Sylvia nodded, a glimmer of respect in her eyes. "You've come a long way from the woman who first walked into my office, broken and betrayed. This ordeal has forged you into something stronger, something unbreakable." As the legal proceedings drew to a close, Leon's once formidable empire lay in ruins around him. He had been convicted on multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement, facing a lengthy prison sentence and financial ruin. The man who had once strutted through life with such arrogant charm was now a cautionary tale, a living embodiment of the consequences of unchecked greed. And Mira? She emerged from the ashes of her shattered marriage like a phoenix, her assets and inheritance secured, her future her own to sculpt as she saw fit. In the months that followed, she found herself drawn back to the secluded mountain cabin where it had all begun, the place where Leon's lies had first unraveled, setting her on an agonizing path of discovery and retribution. As she stood on the sun-dappled shores of the tranquil lake, her gaze sweeping over the pristine wilderness, she felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. This place, once tainted by the bitter sting of betrayal, now held the promise of renewal, of a fresh start, forged from the fires of her own resilience. It was then that the idea took root, a vision of transforming this sacred space into a sanctuary, a place where other women who had endured the trauma of broken trust could find solace and healing. With a renewed sense of purpose, Mira set to work, pouring her energy and resources into renovating the rustic cabins and expanding the facilities to accommodate a full-fledged retreat center. "You're really going through with this, huh?" Jonas remarked one day as he helped oversee the construction crew. "Not that I'm surprised. You've always been the type to turn lemons into lemonade." Mira grinned, surveying the progress with a keen eye. "You know me too well, 'cause I figure if I can come back from the brink of having my life destroyed, imagine what other women could achieve with the right support and guidance." As the months rolled by, Mira's vision took shape. A tranquil oasis nestled in the heart of the mountains, where women from all walks of life could come to heal, to find their strength, and to forge unbreakable bonds of sisterhood. And on the day of the grand opening, as Mira stood before the gathered crowd of survivors, advocates, and well-wishers, she couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph coursing through her veins. "This place," she declared, her voice ringing out with conviction, "is more than just a retreat. It's a testament to the indomitable spirit of women who have stared down the darkness of betrayal and emerged victorious. It's a promise that no matter how deep the wounds, how insurmountable the obstacles, we have the power to rise again, stronger and more resilient than ever before." As the crowd erupted into thunderous applause, Mira allowed herself a moment to bask in the hard-won victory. She had walked through fire and emerged unscathed, her soul tempered by the crucible of her own resolve. And as she looked out over the sea of smiling faces, she knew that this was only the beginning. A new chapter in a life forged from the ashes of pain. A life dedicated to empowering others to find their own strength and reclaim their destinies.